I intended to simply deliver a KFC order and depart, but then she locked eyes with me and said, "If you're courageous enough, stay." I was unaware that just moments later, a profound change within me would occur, triggered by one woman, one night, and one unforgettable question. The events that followed continue to linger in my mind. If you have encountered an individual who transformed your life in an instant and vanished before you could grasp the reason, this narrative is meant for you. Please tap like to endorse authentic emotional storytelling and consider subscribing. If you hold the view that occasionally a single subtle invitation can transform everything. My name is Noah, I am 22 years old, and this summer I have taken on a role that I never anticipated, delivering KFC orders throughout Asheville, North Carolina. This opportunity is part of a summer internship program offered by my college. While it may be more of a supplementary role than a significant career move, it provides compensation and, frankly, helps me maintain a sense of calm. Asheville exudes tranquility. The term that immediately comes to mind is this one. It is situated in the Blue Ridge Mountains, abundant with charming bookstores, welcoming coffee shops, unique artists, and gentle jazz emanating from vinyl stores. A town characterized by its tranquility, where the absence of events brings a sense of reassurance. The weather here is characterized by frequent rainfall, not the intense thunderstorms that evoke fear, but rather a soft, continuous drizzle that envelopes the surroundings in the refreshing scent of damp pine and asphalt. On certain days, I find myself strolling by the library on Montfort Avenue, contemplating the experience of truly belonging in such an esteemed environment. On other days, I focus on driving and delivering buckets of chicken to the local community in need. I reside in a compact studio apartment situated above a vintage shoe repair shop. The ceiling emits a creaking sound, the paint shows signs of wear, and my roommate is often absent. I find myself with ample time and an abundance of mental space. I find myself uncertain about the direction of my life. My major lacks enthusiasm for me. My friends seem to be quite far away. I excel at maintaining a facade of normalcy, yet internally, it feels as though I am perpetually suspended just above the surface, anticipating the inevitable pull of gravity. On a seemingly typical Thursday evening, I approached a door and everything transformed. It was a Thursday evening, one that imbued the atmosphere with a sense of surrealism. The sun had already descended beyond the hills, and Asheville was enveloped in a gentle golden hour glow that rendered even the cracked sidewalks remarkably poetic. I had one final order to complete before I could clock out, a KFC family combo with extra biscuits. The location was situated in Montfort Hills, an exclusive and serene area of the town that I seldom had the opportunity to deliver to. Meandering lanes, elegant Victorian residences, gentle porch illumination, and wine chimes that murmured rather than clashed. I navigated using the GPS, driving past impressive rows of tall oaks, and parked in front of a house that resembled something straight out of a Southern Living magazine. It was understated, yet enduring. White shutters adorned with ivy gracefully climbing the sides. A spacious front porch featuring a rocking chair, exuding an air of timeless narratives waiting to be shared. I took hold of the bag, proceeded along the path, and knocked twice at the door. As the door swung open, I almost lost sight of my purpose for being there. Vivian stood there, appearing to be in her mid to late 40s, with auburn hair cascading in soft waves past her shoulders. She donned a forest green cardigan, paired with understated earrings, and appeared to be without any visible makeup. Yet there was an air of poise about her, as if the atmosphere itself held its breath before resuming its flow. Her gaze connected with mine, composed, inquisitive, unaffected by my clear discomfort. I successfully communicated your order. She accepted the bag from my hands, and for a brief moment, our fingers made contact. At that moment, she expressed it with a gentle tone, tinged with a hint of amusement. If you possess the courage, remain. I have just blinked. Did I understand that correctly? She maintained a serious demeanor, offering no laughter or playful gestures, simply regarding me as if she was already aware of my intentions. My mouth opened, yet silence prevailed. My face flushed, and my heart raced as if I had just completed an intense uphill sprint. I observed her, then shifted my gaze to the porch steps, and returned my attention to her once more. I believe it would be best for me to complete my shift, I stated with a hint of hesitation. She offered a subtle nod, as if it came as no surprise to her at all. Do as you wish, she remarked, maintaining her smile, that familiar, knowing smile. The door shut with a soft sound. I remained in that spot for a brief moment, my hand lingering awkwardly by my side while my mind raced with thoughts. Then, I swiftly made my way back to my car, as if I required space. As I drove away, her voice echoed in my mind, urging me to stay if I had the courage. That night, I hardly got any rest. In that moment, she occupied my thoughts, illuminated in the stillness of the porch. A week had passed since the delivery, a week spent reflecting on her words repeatedly. If you possess the courage, feel free to remain. I continuously reassured myself that it was merely an unusual flirtatious encounter, something that should be left in the past. However, the reality is that I was unable to move on from her. That afternoon, the sun finally emerged from the overcast skies that had shrouded Asheville for days. The atmosphere was invigorating, the pathways inviting. I chose to stroll through Weaver Park, my preferred serene location close to campus. As I listened to music through my earbuds, my thoughts began to wander until something or someone captured my attention. I became immobilized. There she stood. Vivian walked deliberately along a gravel path, her hands neatly tucked into the pockets of a long, olive-colored coat. The fading sunlight illuminated her hair, giving it the appearance of finely crafted copper. She appeared precisely as I recalled, poised, elegant, seemingly almost incongruous in this environment. I experienced a moment of anxiety, diverted my gaze, and feigned interest in my phone. However, the opportunity had passed. She had observed me. She smiled, a complete and genuine expression, unlike the enigmatic half-smile from the porch. This one felt more inviting, known. She approached with a measured pace and came to a stop in front of me. "You seem quite recognizable," she remarked, her eyes glimmering with intrigue. I took a deep breath. "I delivered your KFC a week ago." Her smile expanded. "Indeed, the delivery person who fled the scene." I chuckled uncomfortably. "I had some doubts about your seriousness." I was indeed. After a brief pause, she inquired, "Are you currently occupied?" I shook my head, then proceeded to walk alongside me. This was not a request. It was gentle, yet it presented a formidable challenge. We commenced our journey, seamlessly finding our rhythm. She inquired about the educational institution. I shared with her my thoughts on the internship and my uncertainties regarding the future. She listened attentively without interruption. She presented her narrative. A recently divorced individual with a background in literature, without children. She relocated to Asheville 2 years prior to begin anew. Appreciated poetry, enjoyed listening to vinyl jazz records during rainy mornings. I expressed to her that I had never encountered anyone quite like her. She remained composed. She mentioned that you likely have not. Upon arriving at the park's edge, we noticed the light starting to diminish. She paused, retrieved a small notepad from her purse, quickly wrote down a number, and tore off the page. She presented it to me. She stated that this isn't her usual approach, yet she feels compelled to take a chance on you. With a composed elegance, she then turned and walked away. I stood there, heart racing, number in hand, contemplating the events that had just unfolded. The document remained on my nightstand for 3 days. Each night, I would take it in my hand, examine the number, and then set it down as if it could scald me. I prepared my words meticulously, yet I faltered before I could even make the call. What was I apprehensive about? That she might choose not to respond, or even more concerning, that she would. On a rainy Tuesday night, I found myself in my dimly lit apartment, focused intently on my phone and diligently working away. I inhaled deeply, entered the number, and pressed call. It rang once, then twice, and finally 3 times. "Greetings." Her voice exudes warmth and steadiness. A voice that prompts an involuntary exhale, catching you unaware of the breath you've been holding. "Greetings, this is Noah," I mentioned, slightly faltering, from the park. And the KFC, accompanied by a light chuckle from the other end. "I was beginning to wonder if you had misplaced my number." "I nearly accomplished that." "I appreciate that you refrained from doing so." We engaged in conversation for a brief period, after which she inquired about the possibility of dinner this Friday. We selected a quaint Italian restaurant, conveniently located near Pack Square. Soft lighting, exposed brick walls, and checkered tablecloths create a refined atmosphere. I arrived early, feeling anxious and reconsidering every piece of clothing I had chosen. Upon her entrance, I found myself momentarily at a loss for words. She donned an elegant black dress, her hair cascading in gentle waves. Her smile upon seeing me brought a sense of relief to my chest. "You present yourself well," she remarked as she took a seat. "You look absolutely stunning," I remarked. We shared laughter, and the dialogue progressed seamlessly, much like the wine being poured. Literary works that captivated us, musical collections that accompanied us through countless moments, aspirations that remained unfulfilled. Regrets, instances we failed to recognize as significant until they slipped away. Vivian shared with me an impactful poem that once played a crucial role in her life. I shared with her a brief narrative I composed during my high school years that remained unseen by others. As time passed, dishes were removed, and the restaurant gradually emptied around us. The streets outside were moist from the previous rainfall. We positioned ourselves by the curb, hesitant to part ways. She regarded me with that same composed, inquisitive look. "Would you be interested in joining me at my residence?" She took a moment to engage in conversation, only if you feel prepared to do so. She had no intention of enticing me. There was no pressure, only an open door and a question posed. For the first time in quite a while, I found myself unafraid of the response. Her apartment was situated on the third floor of a historic brick building just outside downtown Asheville. There is no elevator available. Instead, one must navigate a creaky staircase, accompanied by a subtle hint of lavender wafting through the corridors. Vivian discreetly unlocked the door with a soft click and gracefully stepped aside. "Enter," she invited gently. It was entirely different from my expectations, yet precisely aligned with my vision of how she would live. The space exuded warmth and character, featuring well-worn hardwood floors. Bookshelves brimming with volumes, their spines arranged in a haphazard manner. Lamps emitting a warm golden glow in place of overhead lighting. A selection of elegantly framed black and white photographs. A record player occupied the corner, gracefully spinning a Billie Holiday album, which infused the room with a rich ambience of smoky jazz. The atmosphere of the place exuded a unique blend of tranquility and vibrant energy. "Moi gak du ku mot ka chuyen." "Please, make yourself at home," she said, gracefully removing her shoes and proceeding to the kitchen. I paused for a moment, absorbing the ambience created by the flickering candlelight on the windowsill. The subtle aroma of chamomile mingles with the essence of aged paper. She came back a few minutes later. 2 mugs of tea held firmly in hand. Chamomile. It assists in managing anxiety. I smiled with confidence. "Do you believe I am feeling anxious?" "I am aware of that." We were seated on a luxurious velvet couch, positioned closely with our legs nearly, but not entirely, in contact. The tea provided a comforting warmth to my hands. The jazz enveloped us with a comforting embrace. For a period of time, we engaged in conversation. She shared with me the story of her mother, detailing the sudden loss that occurred 2 years ago. How Vivian did not fully regain her strength. She began the process of writing a novel, yet ultimately decided to discontinue it midway. I once believed that her words held all the significance. However, after some time, they too ceased to appear. I shared with her my experiences of feeling unseen on many occasions. It often felt as though I was observing life from behind a transparent barrier, close enough to perceive every detail, yet never truly participating in it. I had been performing my tasks, wishing for someone to take notice. She paid complete attention. The type of listening that allows you to set aside your pain without hesitation. Eventually, the pace of our conversation diminished. She leaned in, elegantly tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Her hand softly settled on mine. Then, with a gentle ease, we shared a kiss. It was approached with careful consideration. It did not exhibit signs of hunger. It was a gradual, profound sensation, akin to the process of mending something within each of us. Her touch was precise, deliberate, not requesting anything, simply providing. As we sat in silence, she turned her gaze towards me, not with desire, but with a deeper, more relatable essence. "More transparent," she whispered. "You have evoked emotions in me that I believed were long gone." Expectation. I awoke to the gentle melodies of jazz and the enticing aroma of freshly brewed coffee. For a brief moment, I remained still. I found myself comfortably nestled in a warm blanket, enveloped in a serene quiet that felt reassuring rather than hollow. The morning light streamed through the linen curtains, illuminating the room in hues of gold and soft gray. Vivian was in the kitchen, barefoot, her robe elegantly tied at the waist. She moved with intention, each step measured, as if she had mastered the art of appreciating the finer details in life. I sat up and ran a hand through my hair. Uncertain if the previous night had truly occurred, yet the warmth still residing in my chest confirmed its reality. She looked back briefly and offered a smile. "Good morning." "Good morning," I said, my voice hoarse from sleep. She presented me with a steaming mug, and we remained there for a moment, enjoying our drinks in quiet contemplation. There was a calmness, a seamless connection, marked by an unspoken understanding between us. I intended to inquire about the meaning of this and what would follow, yet I refrained from doing so. In that instant, I understood that the moment transcended any need for labels. As the moment to depart approached, I donned my jacket with deliberate care, reluctant to disrupt the serene atmosphere. Vivian escorted me to the door. Our gazes locked. "Please, call me Noah," she said with a calm demeanor. I acknowledged, my heart expanding with an unfamiliar yet pleasant sensation. "I will, and I am sincere about it." I took a day before reaching out to her, keeping it straightforward. "I had an excellent experience. I trust you are well." I considered the possibility that she might have been occupied. Perhaps she required some distance. 2 days elapsed, followed by 4. I have sent an additional message, keeping you in my thoughts. I wanted to take a moment to say hello. There has been no progress yet. I made a call, but it went directly to voicemail. I did not leave a message. The following day, I made another attempt. Identical circumstances, enduring quietude. As the week drew to a close, I found it increasingly difficult to dispel the heavy sensation weighing on my chest. The type of sensation one may hesitate to identify, as doing so renders it tangible. On Saturday afternoon, I resumed the process of rebuilding. The sky was overcast, a shade of gray that seemed to signal caution. I ascended the stairs, each step feeling increasingly burdensome. Upon arriving at the 3rd floor, I positioned myself before her door, my heart racing. I rapped on the door. I rapped once more, with increased volume. No updates yet. I positioned my ear against the door. The apartment echoed with an emptiness, suggesting it had been unoccupied for several days. I paused for a moment, uncertain of my next steps, before proceeding to the front office. An elderly gentleman holding a clipboard and displaying a weary demeanor glanced up as I entered the room. "How may I assist you?" "Indeed. I am in search of an individual. Vivian. Corner unit located on the 3rd floor." He meticulously examined several documents, narrowing his eyes in concentration. "Greetings, Ms. Bennett. She has relocated." I blinked. "Could you provide details regarding the events from a week ago? Payment has been processed through the end of the month." "Are you certain, young one?" "I was the individual who secured the door after she left." "She has departed." I proceeded to step outside, traversing the sidewalk and making my way into the street. At that point, I simply ceased all activity. Across the street, I observed her window, which was once illuminated by a warm lamplight and accompanied by soft jazz, now stood dark and devoid of curtains. She had departed. Just like that. No message. Not a single trace remains. And a part of me sensed that it had been subtly removed. The subsequent days resembled the experience of moving through water. All things progressed at a more measured pace. The audio was silenced. Even my own thoughts resonated as if they were foreign to me. I continuously reached for my phone, anticipating her name to illuminate the screen. A professional communication. A professional call. Everything. However, it remained quiet. I also did. I ceased sharing information about her with my friends. I ceased my approach to the building. I chose not to visit the park. However, my thoughts continually returned to her. I was not angry. Simply uncertain. Injured subtly. As if a remarkable event had unfolded. I found myself as the sole individual tasked with preserving that memory. One evening, I finally decided to open my journal after several months of neglect. Not to compose poetry or letters that would remain unsent. Simply for the sake of remembrance. Every detail I could remember, the sound of her laughter, the way she stirred her tea, and the Billie Holiday song playing softly in the background. I documented everything, not to release, but to retain. Holding on was the sole means for me to comprehend what she had left behind. She indeed left something behind. A week following her disappearance, I discovered it. Concealed within the pocket of my jacket, the one I donned that evening. A compact, neatly folded note card. Malcolm. Without any external markings. Inside was a quote elegantly handwritten in refined script. Certain individuals enter your life to awaken the emotions your heart has yet to forget. Only that. I observed it intently for an extended period. After that, I carefully placed it in the back of my journal. Similar to preserving a flower within the pages of a book. Something delicate. An item of significant value. Vivian was not mine. Perhaps her presence was never intended to be permanent. However, during the brief period I was acquainted with her. Only a few days. She imparted knowledge to me that surpasses what many have offered over the years. Not via recommendations. Not by means of lengthy addresses. Or significant announcements. She imparted her lessons through her authentic self. And by departing precisely at that moment. In reality, certain individuals enter your life for a brief period rather than to remain permanently. They arrive to rouse you from sleep. Vivian emphasized that connection does not necessarily imply lasting bonds. The focus is on the effect. Certain bonds may not endure for a lifetime, yet they possess the power to transform you permanently. At times, a single moment of tranquility is all that is needed. A cup of tea served with elegance. A record featuring a musical composition. A phrase softly spoken at the entrance. If you possess the courage, remain here. I once believed that true courage was about perseverance. Striving to preserve something regardless of the consequences. However, Vivian presented me with an alternative perspective. At times, true bravery involves the act of releasing what no longer serves us. Releasing expectations. In search of solutions. Longing for someone's return. Her absence was not intended to cause me pain. I find that hard to accept. Perhaps it was time for her to progress forward. Perhaps she experienced fear. Or perhaps she was precisely who she claimed to be. A person embarking on a fresh journey, one moment at a time. In that moment, she made her choice in my favor. And I had the opportunity to select her again. Even if it is just for a single night. One sunrise. A gentle farewell that remained unspoken. Occasionally, she crosses my mind when jazz plays or when I spot a green scarf. Or stroll past a bookstore with the windows misted over. I am curious if she ever considers me. However, I find it unnecessary to be informed. What is truly important is this. I recall her presence. Not as an individual who departed. However, as an individual who demonstrated that affection to me. Regardless of the duration. It can still be genuine. At times, that can be sufficient. Have you ever encountered an individual who transformed your entire inner landscape? One moment, please. Not an individual who remained indefinitely. Not an individual you anticipated. However, an individual whose presence revealed deeper truths. Evoked emotions once more. Rebuild your trust. Remain optimistic. It is possible that it was an unfamiliar individual. Perhaps it was an individual you cherished but were unable to hold on to. Perhaps, similar to Vivian, they came at a time when you were unprepared, and departed before you fully understood their true significance in your life. I would be very interested in hearing your story. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. One can never anticipate who else may benefit from hearing it this evening. If this story resonated with you in any way, locate it. Please subscribe for additional stories. That serves as a reminder for us. At times, an exceptional narrative transcends mere auditory experience. It is designed for portability. Silently. With precision. Perhaps even forever.